We will talk about the population and housing census, the provisional results that have been released, and obviously towards November we'll get the full detail of what it is. We're learning that there are more women in Ghana than there are men. We also know that there's a big gap when it comes to accommodation, and most of the structures are containers and kiosks. And so can you safely say we are a container or kiosk nation? But that beside the point, the policy decisions forthwith, because when we do the census or conduct census activity, it's supposed to guide us to be able to plan effectively. Will the dynamics of development, for example, change, knowing full well that we have more women? Will we give women more chance to be in leadership positions and all of that? But we will get into that conversation. We've had very disturbing reports about shortage of water. Initially, you know that the Ghana Water Company had sent out a notice suggesting that the water flow would be disrupted for 5 days, and after that, sometime last week, the water was supposed to start flowing regularly and frequently. We do understand that now the water is still not flowing in certain parts of Accra. We're trying to work the telephone lines to speak with Mr. Stanley Mate, who is the man in charge of communications at the Ghana Water Company, to find out from him what the peculiar problem is. Were they able to fix the maintenance issues that they had, or were they not? So Mr. Mate will join us very soon, and there are key concerns about some residents in Dansoman, some other places in Accra also raising those concerns. They're wondering whether or not we do have answers for them at this point, and we will connect with him shortly on the phone line. You send us your thoughts and comments on that particular one, and what you make of the census provisional results that have been released. Let's connect on the phone line now with Mr. Stanley Mate. He's in charge of communications at the Ghana Water Company Limited. Stan, thank you very much for your time. Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, good morning, Johnny. How are you doing?
I'm alive and well. Well, we got your notice suggesting that you would undertake some maintenance work for 5 days, following which water would start flowing frequently and regularly.
Hello?
The folks around Dansoman Exhibition, around Telly Lodge, are complaining that their water still is not flowing. What could be accounting for this?
Okay, I think it's a small area, but we have water now flowing in the whole of the western part of Accra. Okay, we are still improving on the pressure because, water was off for more than 5 days. So obviously the lines are empty and it will take time to charge. So I'll encourage people living in that area to exercise some patience. But since you have mentioned it to me, I'm going to inform our people now to go into the area and to find out what exactly is the problem. But for now, water is flowing in the entire western part of the car. So we will check and then have this, whatever the problem is rectified.
Right. Now, another key concern that they raise is that, well, when their water goes off or the taps stop flowing, they would be expecting some form of relief from the Ghana Water Company in terms of tankers and community water supply for them. Did that happen, or do you have plans to rescue them while they wait for their taps to start flowing again?
Johnny.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, your line is not too clear. So
Sorry, I'm saying, Stan, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I'm asking, another concern that they have raised is that in the meantime, are they going to get some tankers come their way, community water supply, if you like, poly tanks come to supply water to them in the interim while they wait for their taps to flow?
Yeah, Johnny, you have just informed me about the situation, so we'll go there and check. Okay. Now, when we know what the actual problem is, then we'll find a solution to it. You understand what I mean?
I hear you, Stan. I'm just passing on their concerns to you, that's all.
Yes, that's fine.
Great.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Stan, for your time. Good morning.
Right, good morning.
Okay, so that's Stanley Mate. He's the man in charge of communications at the Ghana Water Company Limited. For those of you at Dansoman Exhibition, you heard it. They'll check, and then your water obviously will start flowing very soon. That's what he says. But let's talk about the population and housing census, the provisional results that have been released. And Mr. Owusu Kaja is joining me here from the Ghana Statistical Service. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Good morning. You've been very busy.
Very, very.
I see. Yesterday, you announced to the whole country that our population has shot from 24.7 to 30.8 million.
Yeah.
How easy, or should I say difficult, was it coming by this data?
Yes, thank you very much. And let me first of all say a big thank you to your team, particularly the support that you gave us throughout the census enumeration exercise. I'm sure if you hadn't supported us, this conversation would not even begin.
Right.
And also to Ghanaians and all people who live in Ghana who furnish us with information. If they did not give us the information, this conversation, I'm sure, will be something else. Probably they would have said, we have thrown money into the gutter. And so we are so grateful to everybody who, one way or the other, supported us. And so, as you rightly pointed out, it was a hectic exercise. First of all, we were doing this exercise within the COVID era. And at the time, we were not even too sure whether, after postponing the census in 2020, we're going to have the chance to do it in 2021. And so a lot of things had to change. Our way of doing things, even training. Before the COVID, we were using only one mode of training, that is face-to-face training.
Right.
But because of the COVID, we had to modify by integrating face-to-face with virtual means of training, self-learning, and all that.
Okay.
And getting the information from the field wasn't easy. Some people were politicizing it, and others would not even give any reason why they would not participate. And people will say, we take the information, nothing is done about it. People have had varied reasons why they wouldn't want to. And so we went through all these, sometimes speaking to them, encouraging them, and sometimes bringing in other people to speak to these people.
Okay.
And so it was a hectic exercise.
Were you able to count everybody?
No, at this, I will not say we're able to count everybody.
Why is that?
And let me also say that this is census, and nowhere in the world that a census has been able to cover everybody. The why comes in different forms. One is the fact that people will tell you, even if you bring the president to speak to me, I will not be part of the census. And people openly say this.
Wow.
Yes.
And what was their reason?
Sometimes they don't even give any reason. All they will tell you is that even if you bring the president, I will not be. People will assign reason as to the fact that they don't see anything, we using the data for. And when people speak like this, most of the times they think in terms of what personally they should gain. Going to the field, people thought that we should give them something before they give the information. And this is what some NGOs have been doing.
Okay.
As they take data from the field, they give something, soap or something. But we don't do that kind of. And so when people think about what they are getting from the data collection, many a time listening to them carefully is about what personal gain
they can derive from it.
Exactly. They don't think about the bigger picture, what data government should get and plan for us as a bigger family.
I see. Now, the question about the use of technology, did it fail at some point? Did it not?
No, I wouldn't say it failed, but I would say we had challenges.
Okay, what kind of challenges?
Yes, so for example, what comes to mind quickly is the fact that some people, talking about the enumerators, will tell you they have sent the data to us,
Okay.
but then we will not be seeing it in our database. So the process was that the enumerator takes the information from the respondent, and then he gives it to the supervisor who via Bluetooth, and the supervisor will then sync to our server. And so as soon as the data is synced, we should see it in our database. But sometimes
In real
that
time?
variation in real
Okay.
time. And so in some of the situations, even though they have synced a number of times, we don't find it. And so these are some of the things that we went through. And so we had these IT rovers that in those instances, then we have to send somebody physically to go and pick the data so we can get it in our server.
Have you paid the people who went out to collect the data for you, which you announced yesterday? Have you paid them?
Not all of them.
Why not?
Yeah, so before the exercise, we went into a contract,
Okay.
and the contract said we'll begin paying 30% of the contract sum.
Okay.
And when you are done means you have synced the data to us, and you have returned all our items to us. And so when you are done this, then we clear you, and that is when we pay you the remaining 70%.
Okay.
And so as at last week, this week I haven't had time to find out, but as at the previous week, we had paid about 80%.
80% of the people,
of the people,
enumerators, okay. In full?
In full, yes.
Okay.
And so we are left with the 20%, and it has to do with we being sure that we don't pay the money to the wrong people, and also getting our returnable items.
Okay.
There could be instances where people will tell you, if you don't pay me, I don't give you
The
your
tablet.
tablet.
Okay.
But it's the other way around. We should get the tablet first before payment is done.
They want assurance.
No, but what if we give you the money and you also don't bring the tablet? And in that case, we agreed contractually.
Oh, they signed the contract?
They signed, yes.
Okay.
You understand? And some people will also come and tell stories that the tablets are missing. As to how the tablet got missing, in some of the cases, it's an answer story. Some of them, yes, genuinely, no true, their fault, got missing and all that. And so we need to investigate to be sure that whatever money we are paying will not also affect our SCAR service. And so if you got your tablet missing negligently, or you are not submitting the accessories, for instance, we pay, you pay.
Okay.
We surcharge you on. And also some people, after completing the first phase of the exercise, which is the listing exercise, they stopped.
Ah, they didn't go on to do the enumeration.
Exactly. And their names are in the database. And so if you don't take care, you pay these people the 70%.
When
And
they have done no work.
When they have done
But
no
the
work.
monies that you're paying them individually, can they, for example, cover the tablets and the other logistics that you give to them if they decide not to return them?
Yes.
It can cover that?
Yes, it can.
Okay. Then you are fine.
Yes.
I see. You found out that there are more women in Ghana than there are men.
Yes.
That's always been the case, actually. But why has it generated so much talk this time around?
Well, I should say that, yes, now people are also generating more interest in data. And it's good for us because as an institution, one of the challenges that we have had is the fact that we come out with all these nice information and people are not using them.
Okay.
And so for us, it's good that is generating this kind of interest, except to say that we want the men to show the same enthusiasm in the other set of indicators other than the fact that the women are more than the men.
Right.
And I keep saying that we need to even interrogate the data further to be sure that these women who are more are not children, for instance, who are not within the marriageable age
Right.
before they celebrate.
Okay, I see. But that seems to have been the key point, because yesterday I think somebody suggested at the forum that, well, maybe we should start looking at the Islamic mode of marriage where one man can get 4 wives. Somebody mentioned it there.
Yeah, sure.
It got the whole room laughing.
Sure, you're right. You're right. And as I said, what if we find out that even all these children are less than age 5 or age 10? Will you want to marry this?
No, you cannot.
You cannot. And so that's why I'm saying that we need to wait for the final results where you're coming out with the age groupings and all that, so that we can be sure whether
we can move forward.
Need to exaggerate.
Okay. I also found that the structures, for example, we have a lot of containers and kiosks.
Sure.
As you found,
Yes.
give us that statistic. How many containers, how many kiosks, and why is that situation so? What did you find?
Yes, so we found about 10 million. Where's my
20% out of 9.8
yes,
million.
so 10 million or 10.6 million, 10.7 million of the total structure that had been listed.
Okay.
And here, let me say that we improved on what we did in 2010, in the sense that this time around we tried to even look at structures that were at window level,
Okay.
at lintel level,
Okay.
because we believe that these are structures that possibly within the shortest time can be added onto the housing stock that we have.
Right.
And so we are able to disaggregate that to know how many of the structures are at these levels of completion. And so, yes, we said that 1 in 5 of the structures are uncompleted. And so that is the completion level that we talked about. So by completion, we meant that these are structures that had their windows and doors fixed. So that is how we define it.
Okay.
And so 80% of the structure that we listed, had these characteristics.
Okay.
And 1/5 of that did not. And you are right, we had also a number of containers. And
we are container
again,
nation.
about 20% of the structure that we listed. And again, and that's why we keep talking about structures, because even though it's population and housing census, we find people living in containers and kiosks. And so if we limited it to housing, some of our enumerators may have gotten it wrong getting this information for us.
They could have left all of them out.
All of them out, exactly. And so going forward, the report that we release in November is when we will go into these details, trying to link the population to the housing units, so that we will be able to say that this proportion of the population live in kiosks. This population live in containers and so on and so forth.
The numbers that live in the container, I mean, it could just be 20%, but I'm also learning that the numbers that live in the containers could be more than those who live in mainline homes, because you could have one small container with 4 or 5 people living in there.
Sure. So, there's that possibility, but until we get
until November, you want us to wait. I see. Now, again, the conversation about the kinds of people that you counted, for example, the difficult ones. I'm interested to know how you dealt with them. Those who chased some of your enumerators, those who rejected them, refused to be counted. How did you deal with them?
Okay, so we use multiple means to address this, but in most cases, we had to use other people to speak to them. For instance, there was an area that we got one senior journalist to speak to, the other neighbors, because they were posing challenges to us. And so when this person spoke to the neighbors, then they gave him. We had a lecturer who initially was giving us a problem, a lecturer. But when
a learned person,
and sometimes you find it, amazing. And so when through another lecturer colleague, we were able to manage. So in most of the cases, that is how we're dealing with these cases. And largely, we succeeded, except a few that we couldn't manage.
Will this change the dynamics of planning and development and policy formulation from where you sit? After you are done with this work, what do you want to happen?
Yes, so it goes back to one of the questions that you asked, that getting all this information, what next? So for us in Saskar Service, this is our mandate, to help policy decision makers to measure all the issues that we need to deal with. There's this saying that if you cannot measure, then you cannot manage.
That's right.
And so we are helping to measure unemployment and all these other indicators. So it's up to the policy decision makers to make use of this information that will be made available to them to improve on our situation. If you don't make use of this information, then I can say that you have thrown money into the gutter.
At the last count, when you did the, and I want to veer into the agric census, you did an agric census, 2017, 2018. Revelation was that majority of our farm holders are, if you like, old people. About 70, 80% of them are old people. What did you find in this particular one? Do we have a largely youthful population, or we still have older people being in a majority? What did you find?
So that is why I'm saying that those details will come in November.
Okay.
When we are going into, so first of all, we will come out with our final numbers. And not only that, we will also will come out with all the variables that we measured in the census. Remember, we were talking about 11 thematic areas.
That's right.
And so the employment issues,
yeah.
the age categorizations, the education, education, the sanitation, the housing, and so on and so forth, all will come in our next report, which is in November.
For those who did not get a chance to be counted, is there another window for them to do mop-up to include them?
No, so what we, there's an area, for instance, in Adan West, where that is, I think, about 2 or so localities that we couldn't count. And basically, it was about challenge with boundary.
Okay.
They felt that we shouldn't count them where we have placed them. And in most cases, when we had that challenge, what we sought to do was to plead with them to do the counting so that after the exercise, we could determine where to place them. In their case, they did not allow us. So after the listing exercise, we couldn't. So for such people, we will do an estimation of the population and add on to it.
Mr. Kaja, thank you very much for your time this morning. And I wish you all the best. You're doing a good job, I must say. And greetings to the team and Professor Enim, my former friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just want to, I've already thanked them in terms of the support that they have given us. But what I want to plead is that we shouldn't also leave this conversation to the government alone. We have the private sector constituting more than 80%. And so talking about utilization of the census data, we also feel that the private sector should be key.
Right.
The researchers should be key. Students and all of us should make good use of the data to improve on our situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osu Kaja is with the Ghana Statistical Service. He joined us here